I'm Thor with Deslauriers, and we're going to spend a little time now talking about how the beam mold, the 6x6 by 21 inch plastic beam mold, is assembled so that you can use it in the field. This mold actually comes in 4 pieces, which are identical. These are just opposite halves. These are the side and bottom pieces, and then 2 identical end pieces go on each end to make an assembled mold. These are held together with thumb screws. Very simple to put together. This is one that's partially assembled here. This is what it looks like. This is what the hardware on it looks like, and the end pieces. One thing to keep in mind, the beam mold has to meet basically the same standards as the cylinder mold, which means it has to be watertight. A plastic cylinder mold, there's no place really for the water to go unless the mold's been cracked for some reason or it's got a hole in it. Now, before this mold is used in the field, when you're assembling this mold, one of the things that's important to do is to make sure this will pass a leak test. Just like with the cylinder mold, it has to hold water for an hour, okay, which is typically the setting time of concrete, go figure. So with the beam molds, because you have all these seams in here, it's a good idea to take some sort of a waterproofing agent like petroleum jelly or axle grease, whatever it might be. Put some on your finger and you go right along these seams and just press some of this down into these seams. It'll take a minute or two, but you can see it down in the seam. I want to make sure that I don't leave any on the sides to where it will disrupt the geometry of the beam. And I'm not going to do all these seams at this moment, but you can see how that seam has been sealed. So if you go around this, seal all the seams, you'll make sure it'll pass a leak test. And those should be done periodically. The leak test is what I'm talking about, just to make sure you're doing it properly. Once we have these 2 side pieces assembled, that's when we go to put these end pieces on these molds. So I'm going to show you how this end piece goes on. There are grooves for the side pieces and for the bottom. You want to make sure these line up properly. This is the hardware. So what we're going to do is we're going to line these grooves up. We're going to put that mold on, or that end piece on there like so. Then we're going to run this screw through the back, and it's got a little tab back here that holds it in place. And then we just hold it with a finger and twirl this little nut on there. We will not over tighten this because we don't want to crack any of this, and that's part of why we have sealed these seams. And then we'll come over here. We'll do the same thing with this side. Here we go. We've got that lined up. We'll spin that one on. Now we have an assembled beam mold, but what we haven't done yet is we haven't gone and sealed these vertical seams here yet, which we'll do before we use this in the field.